aren't brave, but very few. And it's wonderful to see how they develop. And they're all muscle.
Now, you've watched these guys develop. What would you say? Would you say bravery is the most important quality that they have?
Which one?
You've watched these guys develop.
Yes.
Would you say bravery is the most important?
I think it's very well. I think they were all brave, the ones that go through. I think some of the older jockeys may lose their nerve a little bit later on, which is natural. But the ones that we let through, as far as I know, are brave. I often, when I talk to them, I chat to them about in their first year as to how they're feeling. And if there was any hint of their being nervous, I'm sure the riding masters would suggest they go somewhere else.
This Jockeys Academy has been a revelation as far as South Africa is concerned, and is probably the leading light as far as South African racing is concerned from when it was set up. I know it must have been set up in the early 60s, I think it was set up, was it?
It was set up in just off in the Borough. And then it moved to Marion Hill.
To Pinetown.
And then it moved to where it is now, Summerveld. And it's always been a first-class institution. I think it was very strictly administered. It's still strictly administered, but of course, you're not allowed to cane anybody these days, so the punishments are different. But it's a wonderful institution because you take in children from all backgrounds, all colours, all religions, French children from Mauritius. It's the most extraordinary the way they mix so well. It's the most wonderful thing. And I was responsible for, one of the people responsible for bringing in blacks and for bringing in girls. And how everything works is wonderful. If you think those children get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they go to the track and get shouted at by the trainers, they expect them to run between rides, which we encourage them to do, and then they come back to the academy at about 9:30 and have breakfast, and then they get changed and go into school, and then they have lunch, and they go back into school. They come out at 2:30, change, and go and have riding lessons. It's a very tough life.
It's a very tough life, but it must have some very special qualities, because we have produced jockeys that have ridden with excellence throughout the world. And you must have been involved with some of them.
Yes, somebody foolishly said I must take credit for it. Well, of course, I take no credit for it whatsoever. It's the riding masters. And we're very lucky, too. We have some of the trainers who've been good jockeys that can help a lot. I think Michael Roberts makes an enormous contribution, and Puller, and some of the others that have ridden. And some of the trainers are very kind and helpful to the apprentices. But we've had some wonderful jockeys in South Africa, and we still have. I mean, Anton Marcus stands out now, but in his humbled he was when he received the championship, in saying that most of the jockeys here in the jockeys room would be able to ride the winners he's ridden if they had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good jockeys who don't get a chance. But
why do you think that is?
Well, I think the owners are thrilled when the top jockeys can ride their horse. And in a scrimmage or something, it makes a difference. But in an ordinary race, especially the early races, I think the children, the young jockeys can do very well. And there are jockeys who are 30 now who ride very well but haven't had much of a chance. And it's the same in all walks of life. People expect every jockey to succeed. But if you went to the technical college and asked the head of it at the end of 5 years how many of his children were good mechanics or plumbers, he would, A, wouldn't know, and B, probably half of them failed. So we can't expect all the jockeys to do well.
Who were the leading lights in your tenure as chairman of the Jockeys Academy?
Well, my first head boy was Stuart Randolph, and he's a most beautifully mannered, special young man. He's now a pilot.
Yeah, so pilot
and
license.
he's still the old-fashioned one who takes his glove off to shake hands.
Yeah.
And I beg him not to, because I think it's great nuisance to them. But he was the head boy there, and he's done well. I missed Douglas White, who's now a very great personal friend of mine. He's in Hong Kong, as you know. And he was just before my time. So, but Anton was in my time. I remember his first year, he wasn't well, and he was in the sand. And because of my affection for Basil, I went to see him. And he was a dear little boy, and that's quite a long time ago. And I've seen so many of them that, with rare exceptions, so many of them have turned out to be first-class people with great competence and beautiful manners. You know, nothing can be more irritating. I stand on the parade ring here after a race, and you'll hear a battling trainer telling a battling owner, look, if the boy had done this or that, we would have run a place. And you've looked at the horse, and you realize the best thing it should be is dump it.
Chopped liver.
Absolutely. But the jockeys have to put up.
But you see, and I'll tell you from the battling trainer's point of view, the problem is, okay, is that we've got to train what we have.
Absolutely.
And, we don't go to the races not thinking we're going to run a place.
No, we all think
every single horse that we send to the races, we think we're going to run a place. So you get 14 horses in a race, and everyone thinks their horse is going to run in the money. Well, there's only 10 going to run in the places. The other 4 going to run in the places. The other 10 you've got to make an excuse for.
And the other 10 you make an excuse for, and if you come second, you blame the jockey for not winning, and third, you blame him not coming second.
Benji, if you're a battling trainer, if you come second, you're thrilled. If you're third, you're quite happy. And you're fourth, you're reasonably excited. It's when you run fifth that you're not happy.
If you're a battling owner, you're happy to pick up the 5th prize they've reinstituted.
Yeah. Anton Marcus is a special case, as you say. He's a very good rider. Anthony Del Pesce is probably the same era. But Anton Marcus lived in the shadow of his brother for quite a long time. He's emerged from that with huge credibility.
Well, I think they're both brilliant. And I see Basil was at the 2-year-old sale buying.
Back in training.
Looks as if his son going to be back in training.
Yeah. We've always said, us trainers, you know, us dyed-in-the-wool trainers who've trained forever, so the best thing that can ever happen to a jockey is that he becomes a trainer, because then you'll see him moan about jockeys.
Absolutely. I think you're quite right. But I think I've never moaned about jockeys. And I don't moan about trainers either.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing their best.
But you're a gentleman.
No, I don't think it's a case of being a gentleman. I think it's just except you race for fun, and you mix with nice people, and I love coming to the races. But you do get depressed when you have a string of failures. One has one's ups and downs. And the best horses you ever have in the stable are the ones that haven't run.
Yeah. Well, as they say, no trainer ever committed suicide with an unraised 2-year-old in his yard.
No.
Getting back to the Jockeys Academy. Anton, Marcus, anyone else that stands out that we should mention, or that you think should have made it that didn't make it?
Well, I think I'm very impressed with what Gavin Arena's done. I'm very pleased that they now are not counting the rides for next year, but it was a wonderful effort he made. I think he's a brilliant rider, and I think he's a wonderful, hard-working boy, and I'm sure in a few years' time he'll get there on his South African rides.
Yeah.
I think he rides very well, and any child that's ridden that number of rides, like Muzi Yeni. Muzi Yeni rode more rides than anybody last season.
He's a hard worker.
But you know, it's when you look at the top of the jockeys list, and you've got to beat Marcus and you've got to beat Del Pesce, and Stradham's now giving it a go again. I remember Tiger Wright told me years ago when Stradham was an apprentice, he said, you're now looking at the best jockey you'll ever see in your life.
Okay.
That was pure.
That's
from Tiger Wright.
Amazing. Just to wrap, you've been in racing a long time. If they said to you, you can change whatever you like in racing, what would you change?
You know, I'm retired from administrator in racing years ago, but they still talk to me. And we all have great ideas, and the people who are running racing here are excellent people doing their best. And they're trying everything. And in the long run, they're doing very well. I think the way that the parade ring is controlled, we have children running about, I think that's absolutely wrong. I think that one day some poor little child is going to get trampled on, and I think that we should definitely make some system whereby the little children can be looked after outside the paddock while their parents go in. I think that the dress of some of the owners and one or two of the trainers is wrong. I don't expect people to wear ties and suits, but just smart casual. After all, women used to like come racing because they could dress up a bit. I loathed the hats. I always thought women in hats looked silly. But at least you could put on a nice dress and your husband could come smart casual. And I said to someone the other day, if you go into a restaurant where we all have dinner here at Greyville, if you were taking business people out for dinner or friends, and you looked at the dress of the people in that restaurant, would you think it's the sort of place you want to go and dine? And the answer is no. There should be some discipline, and everyone agrees with me. But I suppose it's a new world, and when you're old, you are different.
I understand exactly what you're saying. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. You're a font of information and have been a wonderful man for racing, and really I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming onto the show with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope everyone else enjoys the article, the interview. And Benji, may you have many, many more winners and a couple of more really good horses. Thank you.
That's kind of you, James. Thank you very much.
Benji Johnson. Well, you know, as I said when we started, it's always a pleasure to be able to get some of the doyen of racing on this show. And here we've just had one of the men that we really have appreciated having on and look forward to having on for very many years. From me, James Goodman, you'll be pleased I said that, and my friend Paul Lafferty. Enjoy the week's racing, and we'll see you again next week.
Second position by Military Moses, giving them a bath. That's one of the biggest millions I've ever seen. Graceful Anna, the leader. Graceful Anna. Graceful Anna.
Interbet gives you a unique perspective on the event you wish to wager on. The trading screen provides a complete status picture, enabling you to make a more informed decision. For example, take a look at the percentage at the top of the back column. The closer the number is to 100%, the higher the overall wagerings become. If you watch this number over time, you will see that it starts off relatively high and drops as the race time draws near, improving the betting position right before the race. To see where the action is taking place, you can see the odds column to see the situation for each horse. Green means that there is more money on the horse and therefore the odds are shortening. Red means that the odds are drifting, and black means that there has been no change. You can use these trends to better anticipate where the market is going and make more informed decisions when placing a